We're live. All right. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I am seeing green, so I'm going to assume they can hear us. All right. Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's edition of MLR Tonight. Today is Friday, March 30th, 2018. I am joined by two very special guests. I'm joined by the co-host of MLR Network's Fireside Chat, the MLR Commissioner, Timothy Pops Moyer, and pitcher, now starting pitcher once again for the Philadelphia Phillies, Mr. Hudson Quin. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So we're going to dive right in. Talk Session 8, because we've had a wild session, but it's time to put this one to bed. Let's start with the National League games. And we're just going to, I know Jay and Kev last night rolled through most of the games pretty in depth, but we're just going to do a quick recap of every game so you know what all happened as we leave Session 8 and depart from the glory that it was and move on towards Session 9 and towards the halfway point in the season. So let's start out with what we expected to be quite the pitching duel, Milwaukee and Washington. However, this really was not the case. It started real quickly in the third inning when Casey Jones got an RBI walk that scored Pip Squires, and it was all Milwaukee from there. Scottish Weedy doubles scored 2 more runs. James Earl Pones would get a stacked groundout that scored a 4th run, making it 4-0 through the third. Moving to the 4th, Spaghetti Hitchens would smack an RBI double right to center field, scoring Bo Jackman. 5-0 was the new score. Moving on to the 5th, James Earl Pones back at the plate, smacks one right out to deep right field. That one is gone. James Meso will also score. 7-0 is your score. However, the Nationals were not dead yet. Chad Barrett would step up to the plate. No, not the Colorado one. The Chad Barrett out of Washington smacks a solo shot out to deep center field, making it 7-1. Later in the inning, Osmosis Jones steps up. And on, he'll single out to right field to score Steve Harfoulouji Jr. 7-2. However, the comeback would end there for the Nationals as Dan Jerzone would shut the door. Milwaukee will win this one 6-4. Jerzone picks up the win with 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and 6 Ks. Hudson Hildebrandt will pick up the loss with just 4 innings of work, 5 earned runs, 6 Ks, 4 hits, 3 walks. James Earl Pones will get player of the game with 3 RBIs, including a homer and a sac ground out. Pops, let me start with you. What do you think of this matchup in the pitcher's duel that was not a pitcher's duel?
I think it kind of followed the trend with you see some of these pitchers who are around the, let's say, 12 to 15 inning mark with really dominant stats. And then pretty much every single one of them, Dan had a hiccup. Darth had a minor hiccup. You know, everybody except for maybe Tim Burr. You know what I mean? So it's like not totally surprising, but I do think really damaging for Hudson Hildebrandt's All-Star game chances.
Pi, what's your take on this one?
Well, I don't think anyone really expected a result other than this, or at least I didn't. The Nationals this season are not good, and the Brewers, specifically Dan Jerzone, are good, or at least better. Obviously, Dan got rocked a little more than you would expect from him, but this is not a shocking result to me. I'm not at all surprised that this is how this one ended.
If you're Washington, they have a big game coming up next week in Montreal. Do you guys think they'll be able to rebound, or you guys think this is potentially another another dagger to their heart, if you will?
I'll never fully count them out just because they have people who have proven they're capable of doing it. Kind of like, Oakland was terrible to start, and they've been doing pretty good. So I wouldn't put it past the Nationals to do that at some point this year. But I would say that Montreal is obviously the favorite going into that game.
Pi, would you agree?
Yeah, to piggyback off what Pops just said, this is a team that is historically successful. The first season they did make it into whatever that, version of the playoffs was. And it was just a matter of luck that they didn't end up making it to the season 1 Paper Cup. So, this is a team that can be successful. We saw it last season. They just need to figure out what's not going right and maybe make some trades, maybe sign some free agents. But, I like Pop said, I wouldn't count these guys out either. If the A's can do it, they could do it too.
All right, and Milwaukee, of course, will be heading out to San Diego next session. Let's talk about another high-hitting action game, Pittsburgh and Los Angeles. This one was hot right from the get-go, with Lance Lummox hitting an RBI double out to deep center, scoring Jimmy Johns and Joey Bagpipes, giving them a 2-0 lead early. Later in the inning, Emmerbach would smash a 3-run dong out to deep left field. Dr. Lummox and Bach score. 5-0 Pittsburgh is the new score. Moving to the bottom of the second, the Dodgers are not going to lay down and die here. Richard Furr, still no hits on the year, smacks one deep right field. That one is gone. A grand slam for Richard Furr. 5-4 the new score. Moving on to the top of the third, Ross Jackson at the plate. He's still looking for his first hit on the year. He'll smack a single out to left field. That scores Ashton Westenberg. 6-4 the new score. Moving on to the top of the fourth, Joey Bagpipes back at the plate. He's had a nice day so far. Can he add on? Yes, he can. One out to deep left field. That one has gone. A solo shot for Joey Bagpipes. 7-4 your new score. Moving on to the bottom of the fifth, Valentino Sanchez. He's had quite a powerful year, but will it continue? Yes, it will. He'll smack one to deep right. That's a solo shot for him. Home run number 5 for Sanchez, as he now becomes the home run leader in the MLR. 7-5 Pittsburgh's your new score. Richard Furr would come back later in the inning to hit an RBI single that scores Billy Cutgrass. 7-6 Pittsburgh's league is sliced to, but they were not done scoring as they moved to the top of the sixth, where Gare Doctor gets an RBI single that would score Jimmy Johns. Emmerbach would also hit an RBI single that scored 2 runs, making it 10-6, and that's where it would end tonight. Pittsburgh wins 10-6 in a game that featured 27 hits. Pittsburgh out-hit Los Angeles 15-12. Talius Grayo got the win. His first win of the year. Brady McElroy is pinned with a loss, his first loss. And Bartholomew Crumblepuff, perhaps a rebound game for him out of the bullpen. He'll pick up the save. And Emmerbach wins player of the game with a 3-run dong, 4 at-bats, 1 run, 2 hits, 5 RBIs. Pops, what do you think about your former team's performance here in Los Angeles?
I'm not surprised that they hit against the Dodgers, because the Dodgers seem to be the team that hits but can't pitch. So that kind of continued. I think you kind of said it really nicely at the end. I think that's Puff's second save, not positive on that, but maybe they found a spot for him coming out of the bullpen. And if he can be a lockdown guy at the end of the games, that's just going to be a real boon for them to go along with Darth, who's obviously outstanding on his own. I don't know that Emmer has much of a chance to catch Forehead Jones in the All-Star game race, but 5 RBIs is quite a day. Valentino Sanchez, I mean, what more can you say about him? He's now the all-time single-season home run king in MLR history, so congrats to you. But, yeah, I mean, the homer inside of me that's still left a little bit for the Pirates, I'm not surprised by this. They're going to hit. It's just a matter of, can they pitch enough on the days when Darth isn't starting to get wins outside of Darth?
Pie, do you second Tim's or Pop's opinion on the Pirates?
Yeah, I mean, the Pirates have been one of the more successful teams this season. They're usually bouncing around, at least in the top 10 on the power rankings. This is clearly obviously a pitching fault that led to this high-scoring game. Everyone involved here had a pretty not-so-good ERA, at least by the time the game was over. So, I think everyone here just needs to work on their pitching because these are clearly teams that can hit otherwise. I wouldn't be surprised. There's going to be at least one All-Star coming out of this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a couple MVP winners on these two teams at the end of the season.
All right, both these teams look to have great matchups next week in Session 9. Let's move on to Pie's team, Philadelphia, taking on St. Louis, and this was definitely a wild one, per se. Started in the top of the second with Willie Dustis, who he'd been struggling in the Echo while he'd been down there, but now he's back with the MLR team, and he showed that he wants to be here with a long dong at the center field, making it 1-0 Philly. Moving to the top of the fourth, Dustis back at the plate. Can he do it again? Yes, he does it right again out to deep center. 2-0 Philadelphia. Moving on to the top of the fifth, Moog Mefesser at the plate. He'll smack a double out to deep left. That would score Jamison Wells. 3-0 Philly. Later in the inning, Fly Spaceman back at the plate. He'll smack a sac fly out to deep center. That score Tommy Brown, who tags up to make it 4-0 Philly. However, the Cardinals would try to make a comeback pitching against Hudson Quin. Brent Royal would get a sac ground out that scores George Jewell. 4-1 Phillies to score. However, that would be the end of the comeback. Phillies get the upset over the Cardinals 4-1, 10-5. The Phillies out-hit St. Louis. Mr. Oliver Yu gets his second win of the year, 2-0 after 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, a walk, and 4 Ks. Jim Bob Cooter takes the loss. He'll move to 2-2 after 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, and a strikeout. Pie, how do you think your team performed? And including you, give us a self-assessment of yourself and your team here against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, the Cardinals were number one on the power rankings, so we definitely knew it wasn't going to be easy, but obviously we believed in ourselves and were able to make it through. It was definitely a very well-pitched game by my boy Oliver Yu, holding their offense to not a single run in, 5 innings? Incredible. And, Willie Dustis just hitting the dingers. I love the guy. You can't beat it.
Pops, do you second that?
Yeah, I'm just impressed at the knowledge that Pie's showing on his teammates. It's henceforth been unnoticed. I'm trying to digest that one really quick. But yeah, you know what? The really crazy thing is that's put the NL East in just a jumble. You've got the Expos, Pirates, and Cardinals who are now all 5-3, and then the Brewers and Phillies at 4-4. So you've got 5 of the 6 teams within a game of each other. Oliver Yu, I think he's a dark horse candidate to be that third NL starter if you go with the, conventional thinking of Darth Vader and Dan Jerzone as the 1-2. Whichever order you want to put him in, I'm not taking sides on that, so don't at me.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, you know what? The Phillies, they're making a nice comeback. I think you guys started off 1-3 or something like that, or so you're 1-3 out of your last 4. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I think off the top of my head. So last year's Paper Cup champions are making a comeback, and they did it against a really good team. St. Louis has always pitched a little more than they've hit. So, I mean, good job, Phillies. You can't beating the Cardinals that's a strong, strong win.
And both of these teams.
And also, just so everyone knows out there that's listening, the earned run that I got at the end of this game is bullshit and shouldn't count. So that's what I'll say.
Oh, it was on a ground out, wasn't it, you big baby?
I gave up 1 hit and then got 3 outs in a row, basically, and some bullshit magic. They still score. Whatever.
I mean, that's baseball.
Yep.
It's not baseball. It's bullshit. Change the rules.
All right. And both of these teams will have tall tasks in Session 9, but we'll get to that later in the show. Moving on to a West Coast matchup, Rockies-Giants. This one definitely had some cameras around it, definitely with a surging Rockies team and definitely a little bit of a questionable Giants team here on the West Coast. This one really got started here in the top of the third with Joshua Jr. Roth facing the rookie M. York's Matt Hapapetti. He'll smack a triple out to deep left field. That score Ronnie Voss and Ralph Smith, making it 2-0 Rockies. However, the Giants would fire back in the bottom of the third. Mike Oxlittle is at the plate. He'll smack one to deep left. That one is gone. 2-1, the new score out at AT&T Park. Moving on to the fourth, Hunter 2-0. Can he make it splash after being acquired from Philadelphia? Yes, he can. He'll hit out to deep right. Home run for Hunter 2-0, his first as a Giant, making it 2-2, all tied up here. However, top of the sixth, Gottlieb Giannopoulos would be the hero once again. He'll smack a homer out to deep center. That scores him and Josh Roth. 4-2, Rockies make it, and that will be the final score. Rockies win 4-2. However, they will not out-hit the Giants. The Giants out-hit them 7-5. Giannopoulos wins player of the game, going 1-for-3 with a game-winning 2-run homer. Hank Murphy will take the win, his second of the year, after 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 7 hits, a walk, and 1 K. Matt Hapapetti will get the loss in his first start after 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 6 Ks. Pops, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think of this game and the implications it'll have on the NL West race later in the year?
Yeah, I think it's another case of a slow team kind of coming up and trying to make their mark. That the home run that Giannopoulos hit was also off Peters, who is another person in that race for that third starting pitcher spot on the All-Star team. So that's a big hit from them. I actually umped that game, and the Rockies are a team that I think is kind of underlooked a little bit because their GM isn't around a lot, and a lot of their activity comes later in the night, right? So some of the East Coast players in the league may not really notice, but the Rockies are around and they like to have fun. And from the conversations that I've had with their players, their clubhouse is hitting on all cylinders right now. So it would not shock me to see the Rockies pass the Giants in 2 Well, I'm not phase 2, but I'd be pretty impressed to pass in 2 sessions. Maybe in the next 3 or 4 sessions, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rockies have passed the Giants to take over the lead in the West.
Pi, you agree?
I don't really know a lot about either of these teams. Obviously geographically they'll far away from me, so that makes it hard for me to know about them. Obviously the Giants were the favorites going into this one. The Rockies are a little slow to start their season here, but I think the biggest thing about this one, even though Peters did give up the game-winning home run, maybe if he had started the game or pitched a few more innings, this would not have happened, since he is such a powerhouse for the Giants. So it's good, obviously, that they're trying out other pitchers or whatever. Having depth is important, but this might have just been a little bit of a fluke, given that Peters wasn't pitching so much. That's what I think.
And of course, both these teams continued their hunt towards winning the NL West.
Matt Petty was doing pretty good, so
yeah, props to him.
Yeah,
he said he had a decent start, even though he did get lit up a little bit in the third. He was going pretty well until the 6th, and with the tie game, I don't know. If Peters pitched that last inning, was Matt Petty in the game in the 6th?
Yeah, he put on the It was Roth. He let Roth get on, and then they subbed in Peters. So Roth is Matt Petty's run, which gives him a real hard luck loss.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense there on why Matt Petty was credited with the loss. But he still definitely had a good game going into the 6th inning when it all kind of let loose. But good on the Giants. They played a good game even though they took the loss. Quality loss, let's say, for the Giants as they move on towards, again, chasing that NL West title. Moving on to another NL West matchup, Padres and D-backs. And this one was quite the exciting matchup. Starting the bottom of the 1st, Garen Smudge looking to make his statement as maybe a dark horse candidate for the NL All-Star game or NL All-Star team. He'll smack one out to deep left field. His third home run, I believe? Third home run. 1-0, the new score for the Diamondbacks. Here, moving to the top of the 3rd, Padres at the plate. Cannonball Dickerson looking to make a splash. He'll smack one out to deep left. A grand slam for Dickerson, scoring 4 runs. Padres now at 4-1. However, the Diamondbacks would be willing to answer back. In the bottom of the frame, with Andrew Drexler at the plate, he'll smack one to deep left. That is gone. His first home run as a Diamondback, 4-2, the new score. Moving to the bottom of the 6th, the comeback was on for the Diamondbacks as Matty Lynn would hit a double out to deep left that scores Gil Metz. 4-3, the lead is sliced. Sarzar later in the inning would hit a single that would score Matty Lynn to tie the game. We're going to extras here at Chase Field. Top of the 7th, Ken Griffey Jr. hits a sacrifice fly that scores Forehead Jones. 5-4, the Padres take a lead. However, Andrew Drexler would fire back in the bottom of the 7th with an RBI double that scored Garen Smudge. 5-5, the tie. And Gil Metz would break this tie with a sac fly that scores Andrew Drexler. The Diamondbacks walk it off the Mets sac fly. In the bottom of the 7th in extras. They will win 6-5, and they'll out-hit the Padres 9-5. Sid Kidd gets the win. Sylvester Cinnamon is credited with the loss. Andrew Drexler wins player of the game, his first player of the game as a D-back. 2-for-4, home run, a double, and RBI in 2 runs, including the game-winning run on the sac fly. Pi, let me go to you first. What do you think about this game?
So just first of all, I try to spend as little time as possible thinking about the Padres, so I don't have a lot of knowledge about what's going on over there. But, it is always fun to see extra innings, I guess, a little bit more fake baseball for the fans. But these are 2 of the sort of middling bottom teams in the league. So they're sort of ranked evenly in my mind, so seeing a game this close is it makes sense to me. No real surprises here, I don't think.
Pops, did you second that one?
Kind of surprised because Arizona has had problems late in the game. So for them to come back and then win is surprising. I mean, one of the last games that I had as GM of the Pirates, they had I think a 6-run lead on us or something like that, 5 or 6 run. We scored 1 less than whatever they had and almost had that comeback complete. So it is surprising to me that they were able to come back and win, to be honest. They haven't handled the late innings of the games well so far. So for them to not only come back, but come back twice and win, that's impressive. I mean, it's not the same as if they had to beat the Expos or the Cardinals or, you know, the Twins or the Blue, you know what I mean? Like another top tier team, but it's still something they haven't excelled at. So that's got to be a good feeling for them in their clubhouse to kind of hop that hurdle, so to speak. You know, it's something they haven't been able to do yet, and they did it. So congrats to them.
Alrighty, this was definitely a solid game, so congrats to both teams as they move on to Session 9. Let's take a look at our interleague game this session, Texas and Montreal. And this one just ended after a very exciting ending. I don't have any of the scoring plays listed here. Thanks, Witt and Wilbur, for that one. But I can tell you that G.H. Morello did hit a homer that got the scoring started for Texas as he scored a run off a solo shot. Joe Trundle also had a home run, and Ross Fire had a home run. That's what got the 3 runs for Texas. However, Montreal would get a sacrifice fly off of Mr. Jake Blee. I believe that would score, Zachary Benz. But that was all the scoring that took place here, as Superbone Three Finger threw a gem, or was a gem for a little while. 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. Morello would come in as a surprise reliever as an emergency pitcher. 2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and a K. As the Rangers defeat the Expos 3-1, they will get out hit 6-4 by the Expos. There is no player of the game announced yet, but I can officially tell you that I believe Three Finger will be credited with the win, while Tiberius will take the loss here. Pops, let's start with you. What do you think about this nice interleague matchup we saw and how Texas was able to rebound after the woes they've had over the last couple sessions?
I think this is a really, really big win for them. They've kind of been up and down all season, so to beat a top 10 team is a big thing, especially when their workhorse went missing and they just had to come up with a solution, and Morello handled the pressure beautifully. You know, so that's a big win. That might be one of the bigger wins for a not top team this session. You know, it's going to be up to them, but that should be a good stepping stone, something they can build off of. And I think conversely, if you're Montreal, you got to be kicking yourself, man. Three Fingers is out of the game, and here comes the position player, and you have that hand advantage the rest of the game, and they're only able to scrape off 1 run against him in the 5th. That's a game I think they should have won, and if they miss the playoffs, that might be one that they can point back to and like, yep, that's what right there. That cost us.
Pi, do you agree that this potentially could be a playoff costing game for the James Nino-led Expos, or do you believe that this is just a loss they'll shake off and they'll keep rolling next session against who do they play? Cardinals, right? Nope. They play Washington. Do you think they'll just shake it off against Washington and keep rolling, or do you think they'll be burdened by this loss?
I think it's fortunate for them that they were playing Washington the next game. That should be a fairly easy one, you would think, for them, that they won't have to be too burdened by this loss with. But this definitely is troubling for them. You know, there was a time when they were the sort of undisputed or, you know, only barely challenged, top team in the league back in the first couple of sessions. And now they, they can't even get runs off of a position player pitching, which is something, by the way, that disgusts me to my core. So I'm troubled by this loss, and it's not something that affects me at all. So they definitely need to do something about this, because if they're losing games like this, I don't know that they have it in them to make the playoffs.
And we will see just that in a couple sessions if Expos will be able to rebound from this. Let's take a quick glance back at all the National League games we've discussed so far. Milwaukee beat Washington 7-2. Philadelphia beat St. Louis 4-1. Pittsburgh toppled the Dodgers 10-6. Colorado beat the Giants 4-2. Arizona walked off the Padres 6-5. And Texas on the road beat the Expos 3-1. Pops, which of these games do you think will be the most impactful as we get close to passing the halfway break of the season and move towards playoff races? Which do you think will have the most impact in the long term?
I think I'm going to have to go to the National League East with that one, because you had both the Cardinals and the Expos were 5-2 coming into this session, with the Pirates trailing them 4-3, and they both lose. So that's a 3-way tie atop the division now, which it's going to be a dogfight the rest of the way. And if either one of them wins, that's a game in hand that they could have had, when it seems like it's going to be a tight race. And that one win, you know what I mean? Like in an 18-game season, one win is really significant. So I think those losses have the most playoff impact by the Cardinals and the Expos.
Pi, what do you think here?
Yeah, to echo Pops a little bit, I like we just talked about, I think the Texas Expos game is definitely the most impactful one of the ones we've talked about thus far, because the Rangers are one of those teams that we talk about where they have potential, and if they can just get all the pieces moving, they could contend. And the Expos were supposed to be one of the elite top teams, and like I said, if they're losing games like this against position players, I don't know that they can chug it out the rest of the season. So I think that game was very surprising and could reveal a lot about both of these teams.
All right, that'll do it for our National League discussion, as we'll flip over to the American League now and kick off with a game where we asked them, can we get offense? And Mattis and Charlie Scott's teams provided it for us in a 19-run game here between the Twins and the Blue Jays. Let's look at it real quickly. Start out in the top of the first, Ziggy Cedar. We're going to get to him really deeply here in a moment, but he had quite the day as he began it with a leadoff home run to deep left field, making it 1-0 Blue Jays. Moving later in the inning with Lane Drew at the plate. Grams on base. He'll smack a deep home run out the center field, making it 3-0 Blue Jays. The runs would keep pouring on for the Jays, moving to the top of the second with Ziggy Cedar back at the plate. He'll smack a home run to left field that score himself and Joey McCarty. 5-0 Blue Jays off the third home run of the year for Cedar in the second of the day. Moving on to the top of the third, Sven Jorgensen. He may be making a case for the All-Star game. He's at the plate. He'll smack a deep home run at the center field that scores Honcho and Barry and himself. 8-0 Blue Jays, but the runs would not stop there. Grams would hit a sac fly to deep center field that scores Durf Smith. 9-0 Blue Jays. However, the Twins wanted to provide some offense of their own. Bottom fourth, Johnny Hopkins at the plate. He also wants that third base spot in the All-Star game. He'll smack a home run out to right center field that would score Zaz Reference and himself. 9-2 Blue Jays as the lead is cut to 7. Lead would also be cut later in the inning with C.W. Mitzel hitting a sac fly to center field that scores Lefty Lewis. 9-3 your new score as the lead is cut to 6. Moving to the bottom of the fifth, Geraldo McKenzie at the plate. He'll smack his first home run of the season, a solo shot to left field. Lead now at 5. Blue Jays lead 9-4. Pete Wheeler at the plate. And later in the inning, he'll smack a home run to left center that scored himself and Johnny Hopkins. 9-6. The lead is now 3. However, Ziggy Cedar will get the job done, expanding it once more in the top of the 6th. He'll smack his third home run of the day to left field, a solo shot. 10-6 your new score. The lead is now 4. Sven Jorgensen would add on by hitting a 3-run double to left field that scores Grams, Drew, and Barry. 13-6 is your final score here between the Twins and the Blue Jays. Definitely an out-hitting performance by the Blue Jays. They out-hit the Twins 16-6. Ryan Gassney picks up his third win of the year, moving to 3-0. Daniel Collins falls to 1-1. Ziggy Cedar wins player of the game. 4 for 4, 3 home runs, a double, 3 runs, 4 RBIs. Pi, can we even begin to talk about what a legendary performance that Ziggy Cedar had here against the Twins?
Yeah, pretty wild. Might be one of the best, hitting performances of all time in the history of Reddit ball. And just to speak more broadly about the game, I would say this is very unusual to happen against the Twins. I know pitching is something they value a lot over there. So to give up this many runs in a game is definitely troubling. I know Collins, at a certain point, I think he was just trying to see what he could get away with, and he was trying to mix up his pitching style. But this is very strange for the Twins to give up this many runs, and good for the Blue Jays for picking up a win like this.
Pops, do you second that opinion?
I don't even know what to make of this game, to be perfectly honest. I think the 4 for 4, 3 homers, 2 doubles, I just don't know if we'll ever see that again. I know we have a game similar that we can discuss later, but that's just insane. If you had have asked anybody going into this game, do you see 6 runs combined between, both these teams pitch pretty well. And then, so for a 6 spot from the Twins is crazy. The 13 spot from the Blue Jays is, I don't even know that I can comprehend that. It's, this might be one of those games. Yeah, great win for the Blue Jays, but it just seems to me that this is just a fluky game all around. And if these two teams played 10 times, you would never see something remotely close to this again.
And of course, both of these teams looking to keep plowing on towards the playoffs and maybe a Paper Cup appearance. This could be maybe an ALCS preview. We'll see. How about another game that surprised us that may also be an ALCS preview? Devil Rays and Athletics, and this definitely surprised us in many ways. Jay Schwizzle on the mound for the A's going up against Willoughby Hoos, who was just acquired from the Astros in a trade to replace Dougie McElroy. They start out in the bottom of the second with Blue Moon Barthelemy at the plate for the A's. He'll smack a home run to deep right, his second of the year. 1-0 A's. No more offense really until the bottom of the fifth with Caleb Van Vactor at the plate. He's been struggling, although he had a good performance against Texas. Can he do it again here? Yes, he'll smack a single out to left field that scores Graham Autry. 2-0. The A's now lead. However, the Devil Rays would try to make a comeback. Top of the sixth, Robin Reynolds at the plate. He'll smack his first double of the year to deep center that scores Anatoly Smorin, making it 2-1. However, the Devil Rays could not complete the comeback as they will fall to the A's 2-1 here at O.Co Coliseum. Jay Schwizzle, the starter for the A's, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 8 strikeouts through 2 starts, 12 innings pitched in a 1.5 ERA. Willoughby Hoos's ERA rises to 4.27, and he'll take the loss here in this one. Oh, wow. What a game. Where do we even start with this one? Jay Schwizzle out of nowhere pops. Can we just talk about this guy for a moment? Out of nowhere, this guy has become maybe one of the surprising pitchers here in the MLR. Would you agree?
I mean, his first 2 starts have been pretty dang good. He's now, like you said, 2-0, 1.5 ERA. I think that's going to bring his whip right down to 1. His challenge is going to be to see if he can avoid that curse that's hit everybody else. He's getting to that point where there's data on him. Can he pitch through it? Can he get by it? And if he can, then people are going to really have to start talking about Schwizzle and Shark as being potentially the best 1-2 combo in the league. Because, Sal Shark's still sporting a 2.65 ERA through 34 innings pitched with a 1.15 whip. So if Schwizzle continues, the resurgence that the A's have seen is going to continue itself, and they're going to challenge the Twins for that AL West title. So that's a great thing to see him active and contributing and doing well. And that's a tough one for the Devil Rays on the other side. Hoos pitched a good game and McToad came in, was solid in relief. It just wasn't quite enough. It's going to be interesting going forward to see if Schwizzle can continue. And then conversely from the Devil Rays, are they going to be able to bounce back? Because I think that's 2 losses in a row for them.
Yeah, that is now a 2-game losing streak for the Devil Rays, the first that we've seen all year. Pi, let me get your take here. Do you think this is a damaging loss for the Devil Rays in their chase for winning the AL East, or do you think that they'll be able to bounce back next week against Detroit and it'll all be fine down in Tampa Bay?
I think the Devil Rays are definitely not out of it yet. We've seen in the past they're a very good team, and you can't win every game. But when I think about them, I think of them as a team that can hit, that is supposed to score a lot of runs. And the fact that they didn't do that, especially against this sort of rookie pitcher, might be a little concerning for them. But at the same time, we've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, how the A's are a sort of sleeping giant that has started to wake up. So I'm not surprised that they were able to snag a win here, and I definitely assume they're going to continue to do so in their next couple of games.
We'll have to see on these two teams. Let's take a look at one more completed game that is to finish this session. Mariners and Astros, and boy, we had some more offense here. Starting at the top of the first, Miwa Langley at the plate. He'll smack a home run out to deep left field. I believe that is his first home run of the year, making it 1-0 Seattle in the top of the first early. However, the Strohs would answer back in the bottom of the second with Autumn Halliday at the plate. She'll hit a single out to left that scores Riles McGiles and Kev Ariana, making it 2-1 Astros. They would continue to pile on in the inning with Bear Thomas at the plate, who gets an RBI single to score Peckershine. 3-1 Strohs. Moving on, Derek Bongiovanni later in the inning smacks a home run to deep center field. That one is gone. A 3-run home run for Bongiovanni, making it 6-1 Astros. Dakota Carolina Montana would add on top of that with a home run of his own to left field, making it 7-1 Stros as he vouches for that AL starting spot at first base. However, Seattle would answer back once again from Miwa Langley, who hit a home run out to left field. That one is gone. He'll score himself and Dill Pickle. 7-3 the new score, and he'll slice it again at the top of the fifth with another home run. The second 3-home run game this session is Miwa Langley. 3 home runs here for the Mariners against the Stros. 7-4, the current lead for the Astros. Moving on to the bottom of the frame with Buck Cheeks at the plate. He'll smash a home run to deep right. 8-4. The new score for the Astros. However, Durkish O'Leary would try to make a comeback in the top of the sixth with a home run to left as he solidifies his case to start at shortstop for the AL All-Star team. However, that would not be enough for the Mariners as they fall to the Astros 8-5, and they'll be out hit 11-8. The win will go to Fokits Balkpour in his first career start as a Stro. 4 in the third innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks. Frankie Sticky Fingers will pick up his third loss of the year. 4 innings pitched, 10 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. Pi, I'll start with you. What do you think about this game and Langley's incredible performance to go alongside Ziggy Cedar this session?
So before today, looking at the list right now, I couldn't have told you a single player on either of these teams. So I'm definitely not an expert on Seattle or Houston. But if you have a team that can score 8 runs in a game and off of one player hitting several home runs, I think you're in a good spot. So like I said, I don't know anything about these guys, but Houston looks like they can do it.
Pops, let me ask you this question. Pops, let me ask you this question, because one of the things we've been hitting on in this show lately is this inconsistency within the Seattle offense. How they'll score a lot of runs, but somehow can't win games, or they'll score no runs and they still can't win games. How much of a burden is that being on the Mariners right now, and do you think they'll recover from that and find that consistent ground?
Can you say that one more time again? Sorry, I lagged out.
Sorry. So the Mariners, as we've seen over the last couple games, have really shown this inconsistency offensively. They'll either score a ton of runs and lose because of just bad luck, or they'll score no runs and lose drastically. How much do you think this offensive inconsistency is going to hurt them over the next couple games? Do you think they'll recover and find that solid ground to stand upon?
I think their thing is more on the pitching side. I mean, they've got Frankie Sticky Fingers has got, I think, coming into the game, he was a 6.5 ERA, and Artie Ziff was at a 6.14. And Jarris Walker was really, 13 innings, 2.31. So to me, it's always been with them more can they pitch enough to actually stay in games, because I feel like they're always going to at least be in it with their bats, So I think they've got to figure out how to get either Sticky Fingers or Ziff to get in line with Walker, because if they can get either one of those two people to go, then it might start looking up for them, because even in a tight scoring game, if you're going to tell me the Mariners are going to play in a 2-1, 3-2 kind of game, I'd be willing to bet you they're the team with the more runs, all things being equal. Their offense has just been really, really good.
Right. You can keep going, Pops. Do you have anything else to say?
Well, I was going to say it's the Langley and Cedar thing is just crazy to me, because in real baseball, in the 100+ years of real baseball, there have been 18 people to hit 4 home runs, which is, in our condensed version, the equivalency of basically a 3 home run game, and have 2 people do it in one session that's just crazy, so congrats to those 2. Hopefully that's not the last we see from them, so people won't, start saying weird things. So, hey, Langley and Cedar, how about hitting a home run next session?
Alrighty, let's hop over and take a look at our 2 games still left in progress. One of them, Red Sox and Tigers. It's a little surprising to see this one still in progress, but definitely a solid pitching matchup originally with Josh Moyer and Dick Woolridge. However, Moyer wouldn't show up. He will auto-walk to start the game, and he will be pulled, replaced by Harvey Bargeparge, who started to have a really good game so far. Let's jump to the top of the 4th. An interesting thing here. Grigory Polenko at the plate. He will strike out looking on 3 straight pitches. However, he will start screaming at umpire Kellen Heller, our favorite deaf and blind umpire. And Polenko will take off full speed towards the mound and start screaming at Woolridge, too. He will not really get in too much of a fight. However, Keller will eject him from the game. He'll be replaced by Julio Fernandez in a very odd series of events that saw Polenko be ejected from this one. Moving to the top of the 5th, we do have some good news here for the Red Sox. Larry Longshot at the plate. He'll hit a single out to left field, his second hit of the day, finally getting some hits on the board. For him, he'll score Ben Beazle, making it 1-0 Red Sox, and no other offense we have seen so far. We're sitting in the bottom of the 5th right now with Jock Blake at the plate for the Tigers with 1 out, and I don't believe anybody is on. Pi, let me go to you first. What do you think about this surprisingly non-offensive game whatsoever between Boston and Detroit?
Yeah, I would have expected Boston to win this game. The most surprising thing to me, obviously it's not over, but the surprising thing to me is that there is only the 1 run so far. They definitely have some hitters on their team, so you would think they would have at least picked up a couple more insurance runs thus far. That's what's standing out to me right now.
Well, I will say, as a player of the Red Sox, one of the moves that Peppers did go ahead and make is he went ahead and sent a lot of his active guys either on the bench or to Echo. Like, I'm playing an Echo, Jay Money's an Echo, Shackelford was on the bench, but I believe he had to come in for Guthrie. Al Halliday sitting on the bench this game. Vegas wasn't supposed to play, but ended up being a last-minute substitution. We had really planned to let our subs and our bench guys and our typically Echo guys come in and get some at-bats here in this one, but that really has not paid off for us. Pops, let me get your take on this for this decision by Jordan Peppers and the Red Sox staff of going with the reserves this time. Do you think that was a smart decision here, and do you think that may end up being their death nail in this one?
I always think doing stuff like that's a smart decision, both for MLR games and for Echo games. We need the good players, so to speak, if you want to say there are, to pay their dues in Echoes as well. I mean, there's also the added bonus of you go down to Echo from time to time, you're eventually going to be able to learn that third position and be a even bigger source of positive things for your team, being able to play that third spot and making those lineups more flexible. And to keep people's interest up, they also need to have those at-bats in the major league games where they feel like they're really contributing to the team. So I applaud Peppers for doing that. As long as people will at least step foot in the team discords to look at some scouting and hopefully not just swing blindly, it should be a good thing. I'm impressed with Bargeparge. I've umped a few of your guys' games, and he always seems to get hit a little bit. So for him to put up the outing he's put up so far is encouraging. I think that bodes well for you guys going forward. Woolridge has been really good too. So it's a matter of, if you guys can get this in, if they can get some hits in, then, the 6th inning will play out tomorrow, and it'll be interesting to see if you guys can hold on, and because they're going to have the top of their lineup coming up in the 6th if they don't do anything here in the bottom half of the 5th. So I think it's a good game. And I like pitchers' duels, to be honest. They should be moving faster than 5 innings in 14 days. But, I mean, I don't see any downside for either team. Sometimes good pitching is just going to win the day.
Alrighty, we have one more game to talk about here from Session 8. Cleveland and Baltimore, this one's still in progress, and surprisingly still in progress considering the pace that Cleveland normally plays at. This one has had a little bit of offense, though, starting the top of the 1st with Richard Pohl at the plate. He'll hit his first home run of the year at deep right field. That would score Austin Schwartz and Brotani, making it 3-0 Cleveland early. Moving to the bottom of the frame, Indy Sane, after a little bit of a squibble with Wojak, still hit a home run to deep left field, making it 3-1, the new score. Chipper Dipper would definitely tie the game here in the bottom of the 2nd with a deep home run at the center field that score him and Bernie Petrol. We're all tied here, moving to the top 3rd where Richard Pohl will do it again. Another home run out to right field. His 2nd of the game, the 2nd of the year, 4-3. In the new lead, however, Baltimore tied right back in the bottom of the fourth. Hans Gruber would get a sacrifice groundout that scores Bernie Petrol. 4-4, the new score. However, Joe Runzer, on his first game with the Indians, would get some runs. Some RBIs added to his line. That day, he'll hit a deep home run at the center field. His first in his MLR career. Deep to center field, Richard Pohl will also score 6-4. The Cleveland lead, and that's where it stands at the moment. We're currently sitting in the bottom of the fifth. Earl Lester just swang and got a result, I think a flyout, so 1 out, base is empty. I believe we're waiting on a new pitch from Foxconn. Pops, I'll start with you here. What do you think about this matchup and the surprisingly slowness of Cleveland here?
I'm not totally surprised. Baltimore's a little on the slower side. I know Meerkat's probably not going to like to hear that, but it's true. I think Cleveland's one of those teams that's just tough to figure out. They'll have streaks of really good play, and then all of a sudden they don't score a run, or so I don't really know what to make of Cleveland at this point in time. Baltimore, it seems like they're always just that run or two shy of being in it. They just can't really get over the hump. So I'm not surprised to see Cleveland winning, but I am a little surprised that it's, also in the fifth, even though Baltimore's a little on the slower side.
Pi, let me ask you this question. One of the things that's been surrounding Cleveland as of late is how many transactions they've been making and how the roster is really a new look team almost every session. Do you think this has an impact on their kind of streaky behavior as a team?
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat the question?
Sure.
I think I was lagging a little bit.
So basically, Cleveland has definitely been an off and on team all year. And do you think that can be attributed to the fact that they're almost a new look roster every time they step on the field? They sign a ton of free agents, and a lot of guys retire almost every session. Do you think this is part of the problem for the Indians and why they lack that consistency that Pops was just talking about?
Yeah, that definitely could be part of it. I think it does take a little bit of time for teams to, get that chemistry and click with each other. People need to work on the scouting. You can't just, completely switch out the team every week and expect to find success. At least I don't think so. So I know personally that the Indians are a capable team. But yeah, maybe if they just slowed it down a little bit, it would be helpful to them.
All right, let's take a look here at all the American League games we have seen so far. Toronto, of course, toppled Minnesota 13-6. Tampa Bay fell to Oakland 2-1. Houston defeated Seattle 8-5. Boston is currently beating Detroit 1-0 in the bottom of the fifth, and Cleveland is beating Baltimore 6-4 in the bottom of the fifth. I'll ask the same question I asked on the NL side. I'll start with you, Pops. Which of these games do you think has the most impact as we move towards maybe a playoff race?
I think Oakland and beating Tampa might have the biggest impact, because if you guys manage to win, that's going to put you in a tie for second with them, just a game behind the Blue Jays. And it also brings the Athletics to within a game of the Twins, so it's brought a couple teams into that second place race. Whereas if Tampa Bay wins, Oakland's still 2 games behind, and Tampa is still potentially a game up on, and tied with Toronto and a game up on you and Cleveland and whoever else. So I think that Oakland beating Tampa might have had the biggest impact so far.
What do you think, Pi, on this topic of games in the AL that may have a big impact on the playoff race?
So this isn't necessarily as impactful on the playoff race, but I think the Twins Blue Jays game is significant, because that is, a matchup that we could see in the playoffs come the end of the season. So maybe that is a preview of things to come, when we do get near the end of the season.
Alrighty. Let's close the book now in Session 8, as we had some transactions that occurred. Just a few, not many. Let's start out with some FA signings. We had 9 free agents join the league this session. Joe Random, the catcher, signed with Texas. Cleveland signed shortstop Jim Levis. Texas acquired first baseman Dallas Houston. Philadelphia signed left fielder Arata Hightower. Tampa Bay signed first baseman Connor Sexton. Houston got outfielder Alan Kennedy. Washington got another outfielder named Simon Hans. Another Hans signed, shortstop for now for Detroit, Hans Ali, who's definitely made an impact on this core lately. And San Francisco just moments ago signed a center fielder named Clifton Outlaw. Pi, which of these 9 players do you think will have the most impact both of their team and in their MLR career?
Obviously, Mr. Hightower.
No question?
No, not even close. I don't really know. Obviously, there's not a lot you can know about free agents. They don't have any stats or anything. But, the Phillies are obviously the most significant team in the league, so anyone on their team must be good.
Pops, how about you? Who's the guy that you think is just going to jump into the league and start hitting home run after home run?
That's going to what?
Hit home run after home run after home run. Pops, who do you think?
Joe Random, because he's the best player in MLB The Show, so he's got to be the best player in MLR, because fake goes with fake.
One other topic on these free agents, Hans Ali has kind of taken the league by storm with his signing or trying to sign and then decided, no, I don't have time for this, and then decided to come into the league and play. Do you think any of that may get to his head right away for Detroit?
I don't know. From what I understand about him is he can be interesting at times, but when he gets invested into something, he puts in a lot of work. So for Detroit's sake, I hope he gets invested and becomes an asset more than an oddball.
All right. If you want to talk about oddball, let's talk about trades for a second. We had one trade this session. What fun. Sonny Streaker back on the move. He was waived by the Indians early this session, acquired or claimed by the Nationals, and the Nationals flipped him to Texas. So here I have a graphic of all of Sonny Streaker's transactions and all the teams he's played for. So let's start throwing back all the way to the draft of season 1, where he was picked up by the Twins. Moving on to Session 4 of that season, he was flipped to the New York Mets in a trade. Then in the offseason, the Mets relocated to the Milwaukee as they became the Milwaukee Brewers, giving him his 3rd jersey that he wore in his career. Session 3 of Season 2, he was flipped to the Philadelphia Phillies. The next session, they flipped him to San Francisco. 2 sessions later, San Francisco moves him to Cleveland. That's now 6 uniforms he's worn. Will he wear more? Well, Cleveland waives him this session, and then Washington Nationals claim him. However, he will not ever get to put on the Nationals jersey, as he was traded to the Texas Rangers to be their 2nd pitcher. So all in all, 8 different uniforms, 7 franchises, as New York became Milwaukee. Pi, what do you think about the true journeyman that Streaker has become, and do you think he'll become, I guess, the Edwin Jackson or the Omar Vizquel of the MLR?
Yeah, so I think he's been on my team like a couple of times during this journey because I've also been moved around quite a bit. And clearly he's trying because he's around and he's still playing fake baseball. But from what I hear, he has some pattern problems. He's pretty easy to crack, and from what I hear, that hasn't improved over time. So I hope someone can figure him out and get him better. But I don't know. I just feel he has some troubles, and that's why he keeps moving around.
Pops, do you think Sonny Streaker will ever become a mainstay for a team?
I mean, for his sake, I hope he does, because he's still, after all that movement, he's still around. He's still submitting those pitches. And for Texas's sake, I hope he does, because otherwise Superbone's arm might fall off. He's got 39 innings pitched already. So, I mean, and even from a data standpoint, at a certain point, no matter how good Superbone is, there's going to be enough data on him that it's going to be detrimental for them to keep throwing him out there, So for Sonny's sake, I hope he sticks, and for Texas's sake, I hope he sticks.
Alrighty, that will close the book on our discussion of Session 8 and all that happened. As we look forward to Session 9, which is right around the corner, it'll be underway on Monday. So let's dive into it, and let's take a look at some of the games we'll be talking about. Let's start out with a West Coast game that's really intriguing. Giants and Dodgers, both teams looking to rebound in this West Coast famous rivalry. Andrew Peters likely to get the start, and can he prove the GM's wrong in this All-Star voting. It looks like at this very moment, he is probably not going to be an All-Star. Can he prove everybody with a dominant performance? And with the Dodgers' struggles come to an end, Gino, even though he's been picked as the GM, the third manager for the NL All-Star team, his team has definitely had some struggles as of late. Will they be able to rebound in this rivalry matchup? Pi, let me start with you. What do you think about this game that's going to come up here between San Francisco and LA?
I think the Giants will win off of a home run by their second baseman, and it'll be a 1-0 baseball game. That's my prediction.
I love that prediction. It is amazing.
Nicely done.
That's a real-life Giants dig for all you people.
Pi. Well, now let's just hop over to Pops. Pops, in MLR terms, what do you think about this matchup?
Man, I think you have to go with the Giants just because they have Peters, and even if for whatever reason they decide to go with Matt Havipetti again, it still was a decent first outing, and LA just can't pitch right now. Both of their starters have ERAs in the 7s. So it's like, I mean, I don't see how anybody can think that the Dodgers are the favorites in this game. To me, it seems like San Francisco. If Peters pitches, I would say it's probably San Francisco, something like 6-1, 7-2, something like that. If they have Matt Havipetti for whatever reason, maybe a 5-4, 6-3 kind of game, something like that. I would give the distinct edge to San Francisco, though.
So you are picking San Francisco here, Pops?
Yes.
Pi, so you also are picking San Francisco, correct?
Correct.
All right, so both picks for the Giants. We'll have to see if that comes to fruition. We don't have any lineups for you. However, we have some anecdotal evidence that suggests that the matchup will be Peters versus Brait. Pops, you got any insight on that matchup?
I think that's heavily in favor of the Giants. I mean, Brait's given up 19 earned runs in 15.67 innings pitched. So that's and going against people like the communist Pekoff Andropov and Hunter 2-0 and Quint Kimbrell. The Giants have some hitters. The Forrest Sathoff is another good hitter. I think I Peters over Brait all day, every day, twice on Sundays.
Pi, do you have any more comments on Mr. Pekoff Andropov and his chase towards the All-Star game?
I don't like him. That's it. That's all.
Oh, man. If you haven't listened to Fireside Chat from Wednesday, please go do so. All right. Moving right along, both these guys picked the Giants, so let's move on to our next game. Nationals and Expos. We talked about this earlier. Two teams that are definitely looking to rebound from hard losses this session. The Nationals' offense has been struggling all year. Is this the session they finally get it figured out? And is Cal Tiberius, he's started to give up less runs in these last couple of games. Is he returning to the form he started with at the beginning of the year? Is he returning to that Cy Young guy that Jay kept hammering on us all the first few sessions about? Pops, I'll start with you here on this one. What do you think about this matchup, and should we keep an eye on?
I say you should keep an eye on offensively. I think Osmosis Jones is quietly having a good year. He's hitting, 429. Not a lot of power behind it, but he's a contact lefty, so that's okay. I think Henrik Omega is a guy to look out for on their side. I'm going to be interested to see if who Mick Frizzle gives the nod to. Is it going to be William Hatchett? Is it going to be Jay Bedia? Is it going to be Jerome Garcia? Where does he go? That's going to be the interesting one for me because I don't know. I'm going to have to say if he goes with Hatchett or Bedia, I might actually give the edge to them over Montreal, just because I don't like that loss to the Rangers. I just don't. And I think that's going to be a tough one to come back from.
Pi, give me your take on this game.
Yeah, so first of all, I didn't know that the Nationals had so many pitchers. That's kind of weird. But I do think the Expos will win. Cal Tiberius Jr. is having a bit of like a sophomore slump, you could say. He's still very good, but he's definitely not putting up the numbers he was last season. But I do still believe that the Expos are the better team here by quite a bit. So I don't think it's a question of who wins, but rather how much do the Expos win by.
All right. So you're picking the Expos here, Pi. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's not close.
All right. Pops, are you in agreement with that?
No, I think the Nationals win. I think the Expos are going to take at least a game to recover from losing to the G.H. Morello-led Rangers. And I think I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna not only are the Nationals gonna win, they're not gonna make the playoffs, but they're also gonna start playing a lot better, and they're gonna end the season really close to 500.
I'm gonna agree with Pops here, and I'm also gonna pick the Nationals. I think the core of that lineup, Omega and Jones and those kind of guys, are gonna have big, solid games, and I think I'm assuming it'll be either Bedia or Garcia maybe on the mound. I think one of those guys is definitely going to have a nice pitching matchup or pitching game against the Expos. And I don't think the Expos are ready to bounce back. Let's talk about your big game here, Pi. Pirates Phillies. You are getting the start. Congratulations, sir, on getting the start here for Philadelphia. It'll be going up again, although you'll have a bit of a tall task facing Darth Vader in this battle for the Quaker Stadium.
Yeah, I don't know that we should talk about that.
Oh boy, we're going to talk about it, all right? However, the Pirates' offense has been surging, which will definitely make for an interesting matchup against Mr. Hudson Quin. Pops, let me get your unbiased opinion about your former team going against your Fireside Chat co-host.
Can I plead the fifth and we move on to the next game? Because this is such a no-win situation for me.
All right, Pi, give me your totally biased opinion about your performance here against this offensive lineup.
I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm going to pitch a perfect game.
All right.
Nice.
All right. So
I'll give you an opinion. I think I hate to say this, Pi, but I think you've got your hands full, and I'm not entirely sure that your teammates can provide the offensive support going against Vader.
Well, let's take a look at those teammates. Let's take a look at those teammates, because this is one of the few lineups we've actually had submitted to us. Thanks, Jay, for turning this in. Here's the Phillies lineup for Session 9. Kyle Mack will lead things off and play second base. The center fielder, Conrad Love, will hit second. Casey Batts will be the DH and hit third. Willie Dustis, off that 2-home-run game, will hit fourth and catch. Miguel Sano moving up to the fifth spot at first base. Tommy Brown will get the start in left field, hitting sixth. Arata Hightower, making his MLR debut, will hit seventh and play right field. Jake Wilson will bat eighth and play shortstop. And Jamison Wells will be in the lineup at third base, hitting ninth. And, of course, Pi, Hudson Quin, will be on the mound. Pi, out of your 9 hitters that I'll be giving you run support in this game, who is the guy to keep an eye on? Which of your teammates do you think will give the most impact here against Pittsburgh?
I think it will be the leadoff man, Mr. Mack, I believe is who it is, right? Mr. Kyle Mack.
Kyle Mack is leading off.
Yeah. He's solid. Obviously, Willie Dustis can hit some runs, too. We saw it last game, 2 home runs. Honestly, if you want me to be more realistic about what I think is going to happen, I'm not worried about the offense. Obviously, Vader is a tough nut, but I think if we really scout and try, we could get a couple of runs off him. If we want me to be completely honest, I'm more worried about myself. I haven't started since the Cleveland incident, and maybe there's a good reason for that. But I think I've improved a little bit coming out of the bullpen in the game since then. So I don't expect 5 runs in the first inning from me. And also, Gale will not get a hit.
Pops, who is the guy that you believe we should keep an eye on in this Phillies lineup?
I'm always interested to see how rookies do, right? Like, so I want to see what Arata Hightower does. And I think in general, I think the people with the fewer at bats might pose a bigger threat to Vader than somebody he maybe have been able to scout a little bit more, So I'll be looking at Arata Hightower and Jake Wilson, maybe. Jake Wilson starting, right? I heard that correct.
Yep. Batting eighth, playing shortstop.
Yeah, so I would look there, Arata Hightower and Jake Wilson. Look in the places you least expect it, and that's probably where something's going to happen if it does happen.
All right, we're looking forward to a great matchup there at Citizens Bank Ballpark. Moving on, let's talk Cardinals-Rockies. This should make for a show at Coors Field. The streak is over for the Cardinals. The 5-game winning streak is busted, but can they rebound here in Denver? Meanwhile, the Colorado Rockies are on the rise, winning their last 2 games. Can they keep the high offensive pace up? And maybe we'll see a pitcher's duel here. You'll have Garrett Evans facing off against Jamison Poe in this matchup. Evans with his ridiculously high K/6 and Poe with a nice ERA that may sneak him into the All-Star game. Pi, let me go to you first on this one. What do you think about this matchup between St. Louis and Colorado?
We've seen that St. Louis is obviously overrated. They're not so good as people think, but I still do think they will squeak out a win here against a, good but not that great Rockies team.
Pops, do you agree, or do you think the Rockies are going to come through and off a good performance from Evans and a lot of their guys in the middle of the order? Do you think they'll come through and win?
I know I've kind of given Poe a little bit of grief for the amount of innings he's pitched, and that I said I don't think he deserves to be on the All-Star game because of that. That being said, I'm going to say that he continues to have a good resurgence to his career, and I think that he's going to be able to stifle the Rockies. Even though I know I've said their Rockies are up and coming and they're doing good, I just think this is a matchup that kind of favors the Cardinals. I think Poe has a better chance of shutting down the Rockies lineup than Evans does of shutting down the Cardinals lineup.
So you both are picking the Cardinals, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pick against y'all, and I'm going to go with the Rockies here. I think Evans has had some bad luck on the mound, and I think he's ready to shine. I think that K/6 is not a fluke. I think he's a great pitcher in disguise. I think that our early pick he was back this season in the draft is really going to pay off for the Rockies. I think the Rockies are going to win this one. It'll be close, but I do think the Rockies will sneak through and get a victory here. Let's talk about, I believe, the last game for the NL, Brewers and Padres. We may be looking at a bit of an offensive slugfest here. The Padres begin to pile on a little bit more runs, and we saw what the Brewers did to Washington last session. The Brewers continue to keep on rolling, getting win after win and really solidifying themselves as a good candidate to maybe break out and win their division. Meanwhile, the Padres are looking for any sliver of consistency they can find. They haven't really found it lately. They're shuffling around with a lot of new players. They're looking to just keep in their lineup together and really start to win games. Pops, I'll go to you first here. What do you think about this matchup?
Do we know if Anderson's pitching, or is it going to be Garzone, or do we not know that yet?
Oh, I'm about to say it could be Swanson too. I didn't even think about. I'm not certain. If I had to put money down, I would say probably not Garzone, but we have no idea. We have not heard from Cash what's going to happen there.
I think Swanson's still on the hiatus list, so I don't know.
Oh,
okay. I know the Padres and Prellers has kind of built his team like this. They score when they score in bunches, because it's a power heavy team. I think maybe the most power heavy team in the entire league. But it's hard to go against Garzone if he's pitching. So as much as maybe Kyle Grimes seems to have been figuring it out a little bit, and Sylvester Cinnamon seems to be pretty solid out of the pen, I don't know. I don't know that I can pick against Garzone in this situation. I'd probably lean more towards the Brewers, and if Grison's pitching, it might not be close because he's one of those pitchers that could hold the Padres down. But if he's not pitching, then I think your suggestion of a slugfest may come true. And at that point, it's just anybody's game.
Pie, do you
but
agree?
I think I'm gonna lean a little towards the Brewers.
Pie, do you agree with that? Do you think the Brewers are going to pull this one off?
Yeah, I have to agree with Pops. The Brewers, I think, are clearly the better team here. I do have a sort of personal bias against the Padres. Like I said previously, I don't want to think about them or talk about them. But speaking more objectively, I do believe, despite the fact that the Padres have some solid hitters, especially if Daniel Grisón is pitching, you could maybe even expect to see a shutout or something like that.
So both of you are picking the Brewers, is that correct?
Yeah.
I will be joining y'all in that selection. I just think whoever the Brewers are on the mound is just going to be too much for that inconsistent Padres offense to handle. Sorry, Preller. All right, let's hop over and look at some of these AL matchups. So now let's start with what I think is the best matchup in the AL this session, Cleveland and Toronto. This one, considering how Cleveland normally plays and how Toronto played last session, this one definitely has a chance to break some pace records. We may see a very fast, maybe 4-day, could possibly even be 3.5-day game between Cleveland and Toronto. Blue Jays looking for their 7th win of the year to put them as unarguably the best team in the league. And the Indians are looking to potentially get a win and be over 500 at the break. Excuse me, Pie, let me start with you here. What do you think about this matchup and the potential records we could see between Cleveland and Toronto here?
Yeah, like you said, I do think if there's any record broken here, it's just going to be about speed and pace of play. But speaking more about the scores of the game, I believe the Blue Jays will win, let's say, by 2 runs.
Pops, do you agree with that take, or do you think it'll be more of a blowout for the Blue Jays?
I'm always wary of a team coming off a really big offensive performance because it's just something that's really hard to repeat. Not saying that the Blue Jays aren't capable of it, but I just don't expect them to score 13 runs again, let alone maybe even 6 or 7. I would say this is going to be more of a 3-4, 4-5 kind of game. Man, I hate to do this to one of my 3 former teams, I guess you could say, but I'm going to go with the underdogs here. I think Cleveland is going to get that signature win that they've been looking for and squeak one out here.
So I personally don't think Cleveland has enough right now. I just think that team is just so against. They just need to find a stable group of guys to go out and win games, and I just don't think BB's been able to find that yet. And I think Toronto's really had that all year, and that's why they're going to go on to get their 7th win. I don't think it'll be easy, but I do think they're going to squeak out win number 7 and unarguably be the best team in the MLR heading into the All-Star break. Moving on to our next AL matchup, Tigers and Devil Rays. As we talked about earlier, the Devil Rays are now on a skid 2 games in a row. Can they bounce back? Well, we're going to see quite the interesting pitching matchup between Dick Woolridge and Ed Turner. Turner looking for another great start, facing the questionable Woolridge. And really, this game could be unpredictable. We're waiting to see if the Tigers will break out. This could be the game we'll get a signature win, but we need to see the Devil Rays really show some signs of a competent offense again, which we haven't seen in 2 sessions. Pops, I'll start with you here. What do you think we're going to see between the Tigers and the Devil Rays?
I think the Devil Rays bounce back, much like you guys had some of your stars down in Echo League. So did the Devil Rays this session. So I think JDDLR was down there. I think Dominus was down there. I don't know that Detroit has the firepower to compete with the full complement of the Devil Rays. And I think this is also a real big bounce back game for Ed Turner. I know you guys roughed him up in session 6, I guess it was
7
or session 7. Yeah. So I think it's a big bounce back game for him. Even if he's not, you're certain he's going, right? It's not McToad.
Yeah, McToad relieved this game, and knowing Witt's 2-man turn that he's been doing, it should be Turner.
Yeah, if it's Turner, I think Tampa Bay kind of lays it to Detroit, and I'm going to say like a 6-2, 7-2 kind of game.
Pi, are you in agreement, or do you think Detroit has a chance here at the Steve Irwin Memorial Stadium as they prep to host the All-Star game once again?
The Devil Rays have been on the decline a little bit the last couple of sessions, but they are still a very powerful team, and their opponent here is not one that is generally regarded as a top tier team. So I think this will be a pretty clear-cut victory.
I'm going to agree with y'all. I think Tampa Bay is ready to bounce back. I don't think Detroit's going to have enough. I think they're going to fall to 2-7. Unfortunately, Zoom has built a nice team there. They just have not been able to get anything going. Moving on to our next matchup. This one intrigues me a lot. Minnesota and Houston. Looking to shake off the loss they had against the Blue Jays. Houston's looking to continue a little bit of maybe a streak they could put together. Houston has a lot of questions on the pitching front. Obviously, Balfour had a great game, but they really need to find someone to solidify as a replacement for Hoos, or will they ever find a replacement for Hoos? And how many runs will we score? We've seen both of these teams have nice offensive outings in their last couple of games. Could we see both teams hit double-digit runs or hits? We shall see. Pi, I'll start with you. Give me your take on Minnesota at Houston.
I am a little biased too because I used to play for the Twins, but they are, I think, still one of the most dangerous teams in Reddit ball. You should never sleep on them. I know they're a really motivated group of guys, so I expect them to maybe not run away with this one, but take a pretty clear win over the Astros.
Pops, are you with Pi on this one?
Minnesota's starting Tim Burr. I have that confirmed. So he's getting a tune-up right before the All-Star game that he's unquestionably going to make. I don't think there's a doubt that he's the best pitcher in the AL at this point in time. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing him pitch against Dakota, Carolina, Montana, and Peter Peckershine. But if he can keep those two down, I think the Twins have a real good bounce back game. They've got their ace going. Johnny Hopkins has been a real big addition to their lineup. They're hitting more now. So if Tim Burr is Tim Burr, then I think that they handle Houston pretty easily.
I am also going to pick Minnesota. I just think they've got too much, and I think Houston has just a lot of questions around them right now, despite the nice win they had against Seattle. I'm picking Minnesota to win this one. Moving on, Baltimore and Seattle. Definitely, if I had to say anything about this game, I'd say pace concerns, considering what the Orioles have done, and the Mariners were a little slow this session as well. They were a little slow to get their lineup in. I think it took 2 days for that. Orioles, now going to be presumed, unless they get a comeback here against the Indians, they'll fall to 2-6. They need a spark. Will that spark come this game, and who will it come from? The Mariners, on the other hand, need consistency. They're now 3-5, and they need to find some sort of jolt to get that team going offensively and on the pitching end. Pi, I'll start with you. What's your take on Baltimore and Seattle?
Both of these teams are sort of looking to get out of the basement of their respective, divisions. I don't really know a lot about either of these teams. I would say that the Mariners have a slight edge here, but I think the Baltimore is going to win in some sort of miraculous, late inning comeback.
Pops, what do you think about Pi's big call there for a miraculous 8th inning comeback?
I'm going to agree with him and say that Baltimore wins but not in that fashion. I think they just stomp. I'm calling a stomp here because Seattle's pitching is just all over the place right now. Even if they go with Jarris Walker, I think this is going to be that game. I'm not saying that Baltimore is going to become a powerhouse, but this just feels like one of those games that they're going to come out guns a-blazing. Chipper Dipper, I'm assuming, is going to get the start, and I'm predicting that Nikki Falk is going to miss the All-Star game, and she is going to take out her snub status on the Mariners and hit at least a 3-run home run.
At least? All right, big call.
At least.
All right, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, and I'm going to take Seattle. I think that just the pieces there are far greater than the Orioles. I mean, that's no dish at Nikki Falk and Pancakes and other players, and Dipper now is a DH. I just think the pieces are ready to come together, and I think this is the game where they come together as a home game at Safeco. I think Walker's probably going to get the start, and I think Walker's going to be dominant once again, return to his Session 4 form. And I think we're just going to see a much better performance out of Seattle than we will out of Baltimore. One last AL-only game, though obviously we have an interleague game to talk about. Texas and Boston. Wilbur calls this the game of the week. I'm not so sure. But the Sox return to Fenway after a 3-game road trip, which unless we get something changing in Detroit, that's likely going to be 3 straight wins, 4 wins total after this is the first game back at Fenway since the Stiefel no-hitter. Meanwhile, the Rangers continue a road trip, which they have a victory against Montreal. Will they get the win also at Fenway? Meanwhile, pitching depth seems to be maybe an issue in this game. Obviously, Three Finger now has a backup in Streaker, but will Streaker be able to supplement him well? Will either pitcher even show up to the game? Meanwhile, Boston now, without Josh Mador, who has seemingly left the league, now is only down to 2 pitchers, Parge, and Lester, who's been nothing but a reliever. Will they get their pitching depth sorted out and really start to make an impact from the mound? Pops, I'll start with you here. What's your take on Texas and Boston?
I think this has the chance to maybe be one of the more high-scoring games combined, because like you said, it's with Texas, it's Superbone has thrown a ton of innings, and with you guys having some of your better players coming back from the Echo League, I think you guys have an advantage on him with some scouting, and if he goes with Streaker has historically struggled. So as much as I would like Streaker to stick on somewhere, if he's going against your lineup, I would give you guys the edge. But then at the same time, you guys have pitching problems of your own. Like you said, it seems like one of your pitchers maybe is falling off the face of the earth, and other one's a reliever, and Parge is always there to give that 9-pitch list to his umpire. I don't think that's a secret anymore. I don't know. I think that's it's a toss up for me. I would give you guys a little bit of the edge. It's just, I don't think you can count on the pitching for either team at this point in time, but I think you could probably, even with Barney Summers and Joe Trundle, I think you can probably count on your offense a little bit more than Texas's.
Pi, do you agree?
So Pops definitely has a more educated answer here, but I am in agreement with the general statement he gave that I think this one is going to be close. I'm expecting a really close game, maybe even extra innings, and because of that, I will give the edge to the Red Sox just because perhaps they could walk it off in extras.
Yeah, we're running by 12. Anyway, moving on. Diamondbacks and A's. Our interleague game this session definitely has a lot of storylines here between Arizona and Oakland. First of all, where did Oakland come from? They now won 4 straight after losing their first 4 games of the year. They're now back to 500 and have a chance to go over 500 heading into the All-Star break. Meanwhile, we may have an interesting pitching matchup here. Sal Shark is going to go up against Moritz Stiefel. Stiefel maybe return to form, Shark maybe another dominant go, who knows, but definitely the interesting thing to watch here is the ensemble cast. Arizona and Oakland have both had a lot of good performances, like Oakland has had Notcher and Dingers, and now Van Vactor's maybe returning to form. Arizona's now got new guys like Drexler and Smudge, and they definitely have both teams have an ensemble of players that can really make an impact. Pops, let's start with you. What's your thoughts here on this one?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to be interested to see if Stiefel even shows up, because he either shows up and pitches well, or he auto walks the first guy and gets replaced. So, which Stiefel are we going to see? I think that's storyline number 1. And storyline number 2 to me is, Arizona has some parts, but I think Oakland, and to steal Pi's phrase from earlier, they're that sleeping giant that has started to wake up. And especially if Van Vactor gets back into form, then it's just lookout league. Oakland's coming for you, So I don't give Arizona much of a chance here.
Pi, do you agree? Do you think Arizona's just going to get walloped by Oakland?
Oh, yeah. At this point, it sort of looks like Oakland was just sort of letting everyone else get a head start before they started to try. I do not think Arizona is the team that's going to be able to stop them. I don't expect anything even definitely, close to a even game here. I think the A's are just going to walk all over them.
I'm going to make a ballsy pick here. Doc, pin it in game discussion. I am taking the D-backs to destroy Oakland. I just don't think those guys are going to – I mean, maybe Van Vactor has a good game finally, but I don't think those guys are going to come through against Mort Stiefel. I think Stiefel is going to show up. I don't think he's going to pitch a no-hitter, but I think he'll pitch well for 4 or 5 innings, and then I think Kidd will come in and close the door out of the pen. I think that this D-backs line here, I have the D-backs lineup. Let's take a look at it real fast while we're talking. Dom Stakes, Garen Smudge will be the 1-2 at shortstop and catcher. Andrew Drexler will hit third, be the DH. Thomas Chiggins will hit fourth and be the center fielder. Dom Vielbaum will hit fifth and play first. Ovaltine Jenkins back in the lineup at second base, batting sixth. AZ Chapman will follow Jenkins in the lineup in right field. Monster Mash in the lineup at third base. And Assassin Panda in left field batting ninth. I think this is the lineup time that Arizona wakes up. I think you're going to see great games from Stakes, from Vielbaum, and I think finally, once and for all, Monster Mash will get a hit, and I think it'll come in a very big situation. I just think Arizona, out of nowhere, is going to wake up this session. I think this is the time for them. I think Stiefel is going to help them a lot. I think they're going to get some good bullpen help from Kidd, and I just think they're going to roll here against the A's. It may be a high-scoring game, maybe like 10-6, 10-5, but I think Arizona has the chops and maybe a little bit of scouting to roll here against the A's. What do you guys think about, I'll start with Pi, who's the guy to look out for in the D-backs lineup?
Oh, God, let me look at the D-backs lineup.
I'll read it out again. Dom Stakes will lead off. Smudge will hit second. Drexler, Chiggins, Vielbaum, Jenkins, Chapman, Mash, and Panda, and Stiefel on the mound.
Well, Stiefel has clearly shown himself. So, like Pop said, if he shows up, he could do good work. I would have to go with Smudge, I guess. He's not hitting super well this season, but he's definitely an active player, and I know he's going to be looking at their scouting. So, you know what? Let's just call it he's going to hit a home run.
Pops, who do you think is the guy to watch here?
I think you have to look out for Dom Stakes. If you can control her, you have a really good shot at keeping the Diamondbacks down. I think their offense revolves around her, to be honest.
Alrighty, thank you for the insight, and that will do it for our preview for Session 9, as we just went through all 11 games. Definitely some interesting picks, so thank you, gentlemen, for helping out with that. So now it's time for a new game we're going to debut here tonight on MLR Tonight. The most popular game among middle schoolers everywhere, Would You Rather? I'm going to give our panelists here an option. Maybe it's 2 players, 2 stat lines for players, 2 teams, 2 GMs, and they're going to pick which one they would rather have. So let's start here with our first Would You Rather. Would you rather see Darth Vader start for the MLR All-Star team or Dan Jerzone? Would you rather see Darth start or Jerzone start? Pi, I'll start with you. Who would you rather see start for the MLR All-Star team, Vader or Jerzone?
I'm going to have to say Vader just because in my personal life, I don't like the state of Wisconsin.
Pops, do you agree? Do you believe that Wisconsin sucks?
Well, yes, Wisconsin sucks. But I would rather see Dan Jerzone start, not because I dislike Darth, because I've seen him start a lot because I was the Pirates GM, so I'm very familiar with him. I've never fully watched a Jerzone game from start to finish, so I would watch Jerzone before Darth, not because I don't love you, Darth. Please don't hate me.
I will break the tie here, and I'm going to go with Jerzone as well. I just think Jerzone's a better, more flashy, more kind of representative All-American kind of guy that we need for the All-Star game. Pi, you like All-American guys, right?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you like All-American guys for the All-Star team?
Course.
I think Dan is that All-American guy. He represents Miller. He's got the swag. He's just kind of got that aura around him, and I think the stats reflect it. So even though you may see Vader as having the better stat line, which I can succeed to, I just think Jerzone is the better guy to have starting that game for press and publicity and just all-around look reasons for the National League. moving right along to our second question here. It's glitched out for text issues, but I'm just going to read it aloud right now. I don't have a graphic for it, but basically, would you rather have Barney Summers' batting average or Valentino Sanchez's home runs? Would you rather have Barney Summers' batting average or Valentino Sanchez's 5 home runs? I will start with you, Pops, on this one. What would you rather have, the batting average or the home runs?
I mean, Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine said it the best, and they trained for it in that amazing commercial, Chicks Dig the Long Ball. I would rather have the home runs.
Are you with him, Pi, or would you rather have that nice batting average at the top of your line?
Yeah. I don't give a shit about getting on base. I just want dingers. Like, if I strike out, 90% of the time, but the other 10% is home runs, fucking great. Give me that shit.
See, I'm a Yankees fan in real life. Don't kill me. But I actually personally have that Moneyball mentality inside of me. I would much rather see Barney Summers and have that batting average than I would have the 5 home runs. Because 5 home runs are great, but if you're not producing offensively with a nice batting average, then I don't see you as being a great player. I just see you as being a nice power hitter. I see you as being Chris Carter, basically. Obviously, Sanchez has the numbers, but I would much rather have that consistent offense that Summers brings to the plate rather than the home runs, in my opinion.
Yeah, but who gets the bigger contract? Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, or the Tony Gwynns of the league? I love you, Tony Gwynn, but you're always going to pay the power hitter more.
That is fair, but it's the Billy Bean inside of me that would rather have the Barney Summers type guy. Moving on to our third question here. Would you rather have Jordan Peppers as your GM or Mattis as your GM? Would you rather have Jordan Peppers or Mattis? Pi, I'll start with you. Who would you rather have as your GM?
You said me?
Yeah, who would you rather have as your GM, Jordan or Mattis?
Oh, wow. I don't actually know a lot about Peppers, and I have talked to Mattis a little bit, so I'm going to have to say Mattis, even though he's Canadian. So Mattis, but it's close.
Well, Peppers is also Canadian in real life. Just putting that out there.
Oh, never mind then. Fuck him.
Okay, so moving on. Pi, or Pops rather, who would you have as your GM if you were a player? Peppers or Mattis?
I have spent time with Mattis as my GM, so I can speak knowledgeably about how awesome he is, and that the Blue Jays clubhouse is pretty cool, and Mattis is a pretty cool guy. But even if I didn't know Mattis, Peppers has a fatal flaw that people overlook all the time. He is a big baller brand fan, and anybody who supports those clowns can never be my GM. Mattis all the way. Screw you, Peppers.
All right. Time to be the biggest devil's advocate in the history of MLR. Jordan Peppers, not only would I rather have him as the GM, from my biased and unbiased standpoint, he is the best GM in the MLR.
You can't just advocate for your own GM like this.
And he is a huge snub for the AL All-Star team. Look what he has done. He brought in Sarumu Bateau and flipped Wilson away, which has been a huge acquisition for us. He's made Shackelford more of a presence, which has allowed more home runs. Yes, I know. I'm just contradicting everything I said 5 minutes ago, but I don't even care. I'm amazing. Vegas is amazing. Money's amazing. Voorhees is amazing. The trade for Stiefel. Jay literally went on Make a Case talking about how it was the dumbest thing in the world. And look now. Look now at these two teams and think about it. Even though he didn't make the trade, he's been giving Money and Polinko more time, even though he was not the one that acquired them from Tampa Bay. And we're about to win 4 straight games with him as our GM. I mean, I don't feasibly see a way that you can argue that Mattis is a better GM because he assembled his team in the beginning and hasn't done much, which is Peppers has been working nonstop to make his team better all year, and he has really resurrected that team. So do you guys have an argument for that?
Absolutely. The Blue Jays were snubbed and were a very good team that probably would have been in the season 1 Paper Cup if we weren't foolishly expanded so early, and they're unquestionably the best team in the league right now. And again, you can say anything you want, big baller fan, you're done. That negates any positive thing you do.
Alrighty, good talk. Good talk.
To be fair, too, Mattis did acquire Milo Grams, and while he has not been his season 1 form, he is a very big member of the community, so that's a pretty good acquisition for the Blue Jays.
Alrighty, let's move on to our next top question here. Would you rather have Monster Mash starting at third base for your team or John Johnson Jr. at third base? Both, I believe, 1 hit combined between the two players all year. Pi, I'll start with you. Who would you rather have starting at third base for your team, Mash or Johnson Jr.?
Can you repeat the options?
Monster Mash, who has had 0 hits all year, or John Johnson Jr., who has had 1 hit all year.
What team does the second guy play for?
Detroit.
I pick him. I'm no mathematician, but I think 1 hit is better than 0 hits. As based on that alone, not even getting into any of the other arguments you could make about this matchup, I have to go with 1 hit.
Pops, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know how you argue with 1 being greater than 0, and especially I believe the 1 came this session, so it's a very recent one, which means he's obviously primed to go like 15 for his next 15 and be the greatest player in the history of MLR. So I'm going with John Johnson Jr., who is about to go on the streak unlike any other.
As Pi would tell you, America is better than anyone else, and John Johnson Jr. is a Brit. So I'm taking Mash any day of the week because he can also pitch. And John, can you do that? I don't think so. So I'm taking Mash. Yeah. So next topic here. Would you rather have Tim Burr's ERA or Con Copper's K/6? Burr's ERA is ridiculously low, and Copper's K/6 is best in the league. However, his ERA isn't great, and Burr doesn't get a whole lot of strikeouts. So, Pops, I'll start with you. Would you rather have the Tim Burr ERA or the Con Copper K/6?
I mean, I'm all about helping the team win, so giving up less runs is better than striking out more people, so I'd rather have Tim Burr's ERA.
You agree with that, Pi?
No, I'm into strikeouts. I'm a strikeout pitcher personally, even though I never actually get strikeouts. So I wish I got more strikeouts. And his ERA is probably still better than mine, so it would just be an upgrade either way, I think.
I am on the fence, but I'm going to lean towards the ERA. I just, like Pop said, I think contributing to your team is worth more than having the flashy stat line. I mean, you look at guys like Morris Durant. I mean, he's probably going to make the All-Star team, but he's had a flashy stat line, but he's been the only guy helping that team. You know, I'd rather have the guy who's the team player than just the guy who's been really flashy in his few appearances. So give me Tim Burr's ERA over the Con Copper K/6 any day of the week. Our last would you rather. Would you rather be a player on the Washington Nationals or be a player on the Baltimore Orioles? Which of these Mid-Atlantic teams would you rather play for? Pops, I'll start with you.
Sorry, who did you say to go first?
Would you rather... Pops can go first.
I would rather retire and become a GM again because Nick Frizzle traded me after I got a win and hit a home run, and Dom Duquette's never around, so it's like not having a GM anyways. So I'm going to retire and either.
All right, Pi, do you agree? Or are you just going to quit the game if you were stuck on one of those two teams?
I think if I had to pick, even though they're like supposedly the Phillies rival, I would pick the Nationals just because I actually live in DC in real life, so that would be kind of cool. Whatever. I don't care about either of those teams, though.
I am going to go to Baltimore, and I am going to take over in center field for Meerkat, and then we are just going to win every game out from here on out. Sorry, Meerkat, your sheets can only get you so far with that 100-something batting average. All right. Thank you for a nice game of Would You Rather. We have some questions from the fans now that we're going to dive into right here in fan mail. First up, we have a question from Mr. George Jewell, a frequent submitter of questions here. He asks, this is a really good question, which player currently with under 10 plate appearances do you think will break out into a star over the course of the remainder of the season? I'll ask that again. Which player with under 10 plate appearances this season do you think will break out into a star over the course of the remainder of the season? Pi, I'll start with you. Who is that guy with less than 10 plate appearances that's just going to break out and destroy the world?
I'm just going to have to look at my sheets here. Give me just a second.
Sure.
But I've got a pretty good answer, I think.
I do too.
I'm going to say Hudson Quin, the pitcher for the Phillies. He's only had 2 plate appearances thus far, and he's hitting .500. So maybe if he batted a little more often, he would do all right.
God, not that guy. Pops, who do you think is the guy with under 10 plate appearances that's just going to break out?
Furiously clicking through all the tabs right now so I can look at all the teams. I think an easy pick right off the bat, because they just got player of the session, I think, right, is Andrew Dressler out of Arizona. Is already 3 for 5, 2 doubles, a home run, 3 runs, 2 RBIs. That's a crazy good start. So I think that's an easy pick right there.
Pi, you picked a Philly of your own, so I'm going to follow you up and pick another Philly. I like Zach Anderson. They talked about last night about he's the 3rd best Z player, but I think he's the best of them all. I think he is preparing to go on a statistical tear. I know this guy in real life. I know he is a number cruncher. He is going to destroy a lot of these pitchers in the NL. I think he's going to rip right through Darth Vader if he gets the pitch hit opportunity this session. I think he's going to rip through a lot of guys. Peters, maybe if he gets the opportunity to face him again. I just think that the offensive prowess I think Anderson's going to bring to Philly is going to be too much, and I think he is a sleeper pick for maybe the Silver Slugger in right field. Moving on, I have a question here from Darth Vader. He asks, which team do you believe is the most underrated according to the Fangraphs ELO system? I'll repeat. Which team do you believe is the most underrated according to the brand new ELO system? Pops, let's start with you here. Who is the team that is underrated according to the mathematical system that our friends at Fangraphs have put together?
Okay, I guess I'll just go with the current ELO. I'm going to have to say the Brewers being at 1498 is kind of surprising. I would say that they're underrated at this point.
Pi, how about you? Who do you think?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about this whole ELO thing. I think, given nothing else, I think the sample size isn't really good for however the hell this was calculated. But I would agree the Brewers and maybe also Texas.
For whatever reason, my computer is refusing to show me the spreadsheet, so I'm just going to assume Texas is probably being hated on right now. I think Texas is going to beat Montreal. I think they're going to roll. I think they're being completely underrated by the system that Darth put together. So shame on you, Darth, for underrating Joe Trundle and Barney Summers and what they're doing in Texas. Speaking of Texas, we have a question here from Rabbi Chase, who asks this question. Is setting up a meme set a viable pitching option in fake baseball? He asks again, is setting up a meme set a viable pitching option in fake baseball? Let me give you a little bit of history on this. You may be confused on what a meme set is. Excuse me. G.H. Morello in this game, in the 6th inning, he's down to his last 3 batters. He had a guy on base. The way he won the game, it was 3 outs. He pitched a 69, another 69, and then a 420. So we got the first 2 guys out with the 69, and then when the 3rd guy assumed that it would be a 69, he swings a 69, and then Morello shifts to a 420. So do you think, Pi, I'll start with you, that throwing consecutive meme pitches, whether you stick with the same one or switch around, is a good idea for pitchers and it will work viably?
I think meme pitching is the stupidest thing in the world, and people that do it shouldn't be allowed to pitch anymore. You could do that same strategy with any other numbers, and it would work, just as well, if not better. Because once you start doing meme pitches, it drastically limits the pool of appropriate numbers. There's only so many 69s and 420s you can throw out there before someone just gets lucky, knowing they only have to pick between 3 or 4 numbers rather than the 1,000 everyone else has to deal with. So I think we should keep track of how many meme pitches people throw, just so we know how dumb they are for doing it.
Pops, do you agree with Pi here? Do you think that meme pitching is a dumb idea?
Well, I think he said it in the way, like, it has worked. I mean, Morello won the game. Chipper Dipper has set up a triple play by doing something like that. But I think it is much more risky to go 69-69, 420 than say 102, 102, 597. You know, like, it's been proven that backing up pitches and then switching has worked, or even backing up pitches, 3 times in a row has worked. But if you're specifically going with the 69s, the 420s, the 777s, at a certain point, you only have 1 or 2 more places to go, and they're going to get you. So mean pitching is fun, but it's dangerous, and I would prefer, if I was still GMing, I would prefer, if you're going to back up, it is that completely random spot, a 222 or like a 267, 266. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the better way to go than to actually have it be specifically meme numbers, because you're much more likely to get caught than if you were in just a couple of random spots that you happen to back up on.
I think that in the short term, if you're going to surprise someone with some meme pitching, I think it can work, but I just don't think that a long stretch of maybe 4 or 5 meme pitches in a row is going to be viable. I think you're going to start getting lit up by the 3rd or 4th pitch. I think Morello kind of got lucky here. Maybe 1 or 2 in a row if you want to do 69 but 69 back-to-back, or you want to do 69 420, that's fine. I just don't think doing a ton in a row is really going to help you. All right, that does it for fan mail. So now we're going to move on to our...
That's part of the reason I'm so... To just extrapolate a little bit, that's part of the reason I'm so down on Montreal right now, is because if you pay attention to Morello at all, it's amazing to me that they didn't swing 420.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it boggles my mind that they didn't swing 420.
If James Nino is doing any sort of scouting for Montreal, shame on you. Shame on you, James. Like, I know you can crunch numbers and whatnot, but, like, it's Morello. And, like, I love you, James, but, like, come on now. We actually do have one more fan mail question, and what a great question this is. This one is from Miwa Langley, who asks, quote, "Why am I not an all-star yet?" What a question. Pi, why is Miwa Langley not an all-star? That is Miwa Langley. Why is Miwa Langley not an all-star, Pi?
Who?
Exactly. The guy who did the 3 home runs.
I mean, first of all, I don't know who that is, so they should work on their name first. And secondly, just hitting 3 home runs in one game or whatever the fuck this person did is not indicative of long-term success. You have to be consistently good all the time rather than just flash in the pan in order to be successful in this game. And as someone who is not successful, I can tell you that firsthand.
Pops, do you agree?
Well, I'm just going to give a very sarcastic answer. The reason you're not an all-star yet is because nobody is an all-star, as the ballots have not closed and voting is still happening.
Nice.
Amen.
Got him.
My reaction here is you're not an all-star because you have like 0 plate appearances. I mean, maybe like 1 or 2, and all of a sudden you just have 3 home runs. So you need like 12 plate appearances to actually, like be an all-star on the ballot. So yeah, that's a thing. Pops, can you correct me there? Miwa's not currently on the ballot, right?
Miwa is not currently on the ballot, and unless I'm mistaken, and they somehow magically got 7 plate appearances this last game, they won't be on the ballot after this session as well.
All right. Thank you for a nice fan mail segment, you two. Let's move on. We think we have any live look-ins to get to right now in the 2 games. They are still in their bottom of the 5th where they left off. So let's go into our final thoughts. This is where our guest and myself will take the stage and get on their soapbox or ask a question or do whatever they'd like to do and rant or talk or do anything they choose for their moment in the spotlight. So, Pi, I'm going to start with you here. Do a little dance, make a little noise, do whatever you choose. What are your final thoughts, Mr. Pi Young?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I don't usually do MLR stuff after like 5 p.m. on Fridays, so this is a sort of shift for me. But to talk about myself for a little bit, you should vote for me for the All-Star game. I do technically qualify based on innings pitched. I realistically do not qualify based on any pitching statistic, but I'm a very nice young man if you get to know me. I have a lot of heart, and I think I could succeed there. So if you're an GM and you haven't voted, vote for me. And write me in as a write-in vote, even though those don't count. Otherwise, do not vote for that communist on the Giants. I won't even speak his name on this program for the All-Star game, because there shall not be communism in baseball. That's really all I have to say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson Quin. All right. Pops, take it away. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that everybody needs to continue to be nice to each other. Trash talk is fun. Don't take it too far. If somebody asks you to stop. I hope everybody's having fun voting for the All-Star game. I hope enough people have voted seriously enough that the deserving people get in. If you don't get in, it's okay. We can have fun talking about how you got snubbed. And last but not least, all I'm going to say is look for a really, really big announcement, probably Monday or Tuesday. I'm not going to say much more than that, but there's going to be a really big announcement coming. We've been working overtime on this one. A lot of behind-the-scene time between us and a few other people, so hold on to your seats. It's going to be fun.
Oh, boy. All right, so now it's my turn to take the stage and rant a little bit. I'm going to hit on a topic that was heavily discussed today in news around 4 p.m. Mr. Dougie McElroy, all respect to him, hopped back in, and he claimed that I should not have the fans role because I am no longer a fan of any team. However, Mr. Pops Moyer has a nice organizational system where if you are not currently on a team, you are either one of two things in our Discord server. You are either a free agent, meaning that you haven't signed a deal yet and you're looking to get into the game, or B, you are a fan, meaning that even if you're not a fan of any one team succeed, you're still a fan of the league. You still like the sport. So, Dougie, I implore you to understand. You're a fan. You like this. That's why you're still typing here. That's why you haven't ditched us all for your nice little high school physics class. You are a fan of what we do here in the Major League Red Ball community. So I implore you, put that light green jacket back on, be the master that you are, and be a fan like you know. That's my take. Alrighty. Do you guys have any final remarks, or shall we go ahead and close it out?
Hail Satan.
Go real life Giants. Fuck the Dodgers.
I echo that as well. Fuck the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw sucks.
All right. Thank you, Pi. Thank you for Pops for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that'll do it for tonight's episode of MLR Tonight. We will not be on tomorrow night. We should return sometime this upcoming week with a weeknight episode featuring Jay and Cav hosting. They may have a guest, I don't know. And I will be back, hopefully, I will be back pending some stuff next Friday night. We will also not have a Saturday episode next week. I'll be back next Friday night. Don't know my guest yet, to talk all about Session 9 and what is